We are here today to talk about the talent.
Hey, you have a copy. Yay.
Yes, I actually read the audio.
And
I
it's a great
appreciate the
audio.
options, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
before we start talking about the talent, I wanted to ask you some which came first questions.
Yeah. Oh,
So
sure.
you and I know each other from picture books because we met through 12 by 12 and have a critique group, the Critical Friends, and my dogs have started barking right now.
Of
And
course.
uh,
They can hear it. She's recording. Bark
you
now.
can hear, yes. So which came first, picture books or middle grade novels for your writing?
Yeah. For me, middle grade. For me, the first thing I started with as far as like I wanted to make an attempt was Abby's Big Debate. I had some ideas about it. I had some character ideas. And then I read actually I got for Christmas. Okay, so long story short. So when I was started my PhD, I couldn't read anymore and I wasn't reading for pleasure. And it was really, I just had to academically read. And my wife at Christmas bought me a middle grade book. She's like, read this, you can read it just over the break, over the weekend while you're not in school.
Mm.
And it came at a time where life was really stressful. And so I really just kind of fell in love with contemporary middle grade coming of age books. And so then that always just kind of stayed with me. And so then when I had the idea, some of the character ideas for Abby, I started writing them. And then again at Christmas, she got me How to Write Amazing Kidlit. And so I was like, oh, so then it was like kind of a workshop. And so that really gave me some structure and form. And so that was the first thing I ever really like. And the first draft from what it is now is very different. But that's kind of so middle grade was first.
Oh, okay. So, and I
Yeah.
love your picture books. So I'm hoping that those still are being sent out into the.
We are, I'm sending out 12 as we speak. I have 12 current picture books that I'm working to try that I'm submitting. Yeah.
Okay, good. And you're going to agents first or?
Right now, we're going to small publishers.
Okay.
Yep.
I think you may have just answered this. So, which one did you write first, the big debate or the talent, or was there another?
N- no, no. Abby's Big Debate was the first thing I sat down and wrote. Yep. That was the first one. And over years, like I would like start it and then stop. And then I got involved with SCWI. Actually, that came after I had a pretty good first draft, a
Mhm.
couple drafts. But it took me a long time to really tell myself I could do the whole thing. And so, yeah, that was the first thing I wrote. But it was years to even like have a first draft because I would second guess everything and.
Can you put a year on it? What year did you start writing and what year did you publish Abby's Big Debate?
So I think the first time I ever had any ideas about it was probably 2014 and it was published in 24.
Okay, that's
But when I wrote it like seriously, like I said, okay, this is it. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to really finish this draft. And then I started get soliciting editors and other things was 2018.
how do you describe it? Self-published, indie published? What's your term?
So I had two offers. I finished Abby's Big Debate in like 2022,
Mhm.
right? To where I felt like this is ready to go. And I started sending it out then to agents, and I had a lot of great. Oh, I found that the only thing that's more discouraging than getting a no is getting a request for a full manuscript from the very agent you want and then getting a no, right? So then after about a year of soliciting with agents, I started soliciting to small publications and I got two offers. And as I looked at those publishers, and they were solid. I mean, they were modest offers as far as like advance or anything like that, but they weren't. I wasn't happy with what I was seeing that they were producing, and they wanted total control. So
Mhm.
they wanted like total control over the art, total control over marketing and editing, and like 80% of the revenue. And so I was just like, I think I can produce something that I would feel better about. And by that point, I had a lot of associations in SCWI and other things, and I'm really proud of what we produced.
Yeah, I think both your books, Abby's Big Debate and The Talent, are very nice products. You have very nice books and you've done well with the audio because I listen to a lot of traditional
Same.
and indie published audio books as well. I think you've done a great job with that. And it's almost like with traditionally published books, there's a lot of collaboration, but you are the collaborator and the designer, and you do so many things that but you still have a collaborative spirit.
Oh, well, and you still work with the team. Like I paid professional editors. I had a wide variety of beta readers. The illustration is done by professional illustrators. The audio remixing is by a production staff, the professional voice actors who did the work. There was no way that stuff was in my ability range. And I appreciate you saying it's collaborative because even though I had like final say, I would see their vision for something
Mhm.
and go, oh, yeah, that's better. Right. Because it does take a team of people. And so I was really appreciative for every feedback I had from anybody.
Yeah.
Right. With anything. There is a point too where you say, that's it. This one's done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say I appreciate you saying I have a collaborative spirit, but it is also like if you're going to do something that's of value, you don't have all those skills.
Yeah.
Nobody has all the skills. Yeah.
Sometimes people don't want to do traditional publishing because they're afraid to let someone else have input. With your work, it's clear that you get input along the way.
Right.
And I think it makes it better. And every book that you get published, no matter how it gets published, is hopefully is always going to be better than the previous one, right?
If you don't take input, cool story. I hope that works for you. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I don't mean that cynically. Right. If you can do something and never have anybody look at it and give you any feedback and it's awesome, cool. That
Great.
is
Yeah.
not for me.
Yeah.
That would not work for me.
That is,
The more feed Yeah, like our critique group with picture books, I wouldn't really send anything out until you all have seen it
yeah.
because your input is so valuable that I wouldn't send a query letter until you'd looked at it.
Yeah.
Really, you know what I mean? Because everything is better after it's gone through other eyes.
Yeah. So as long as you've got, and even like with critique groups, it's good to have a team that works, that you can understand each other a little bit. Sometimes if somebody doesn't get it, maybe there's a problem sometimes. So another, which came first? We've talked about our families off camera, but so which came first? Were you a boy dad or a girl dad?
We have three daughters before our sons came.
Oh,
So we had them in that order. We had three girls and then the two boys. It's a funny story. When we brought our first son home from the hospital, they sent us home with like, the hat and like an emesis basin or whatever, and like the receiving blanket. And I said to my wife, this one's blue. I like, like I wasn't even paying attention. She's like, yeah, it's a boy, dummy. I was like, oh
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah.
they sent us home with the blue receiving blanket. I didn't even know they made blue receiving blankets, right?
Yeah. If you've had three, if you knew
And when we brought him home, the girls referred to him as the brother.
the brother.
The brother is crying. The brother is sad. That's
Yeah.
what they would say.
That's funny. So the reason why I asked boy dad or girl dad is both of your books have
Yep.
female main characters. How does that work with writing? Were you writing for your daughters or was it,
No,
you know?
no. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Jennifer, my wife, has asked me the same question, and I did not notice it. And I was involved in a short story independent of Abby. I was just brainstorming. We were on a walk or something. I was like, I have this idea, for a short story. And this is years ago. And she said, your protagonists are girls.
Hmm.
Why is that? And I was like, no, they're not. And he's like, yeah, they are. She's like, you've got this book, Abby's Big Debate, that you're, finishing, and you've got this other one you're working on. You got this short story. And so it caused me some reflection. And I have subsequently now have some works in progress that are not girls. But
Hmm.
I think I don't know what it is. I think it's probably related to my connection to middle grade and coming of age in general.
Hmm.
Like, and I really think there's something powerful about it. I think there's powerful about that stage of life when
Hmm.
you're trying to, right, identify your core. You're not an adult yet, but you're not a little kid anymore, and you're trying to realize really who you are. And those books, one of my big frustrations is that adults don't read them. Adults are like, oh, that's a kid book. And I'm like, you should read middle grade contemporary coming of age. And especially the ones that meant something to you as a kid. And so I don't know why that would lead to, for me, for female protagonists. I am character driven more than story driven. The
Hmm.
characters come to me first. And so I guess I would have to ask the creative universe, why did these two come to me first?
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps, but it was never calculated. I never thought, oh, I'll write this for my daughter. Or, you know what I mean? I never had
Right.
that. It was never so directed like that.
It's extremely common for women to write male characters across many genres. How many famous people do we know who, like The Outsiders with S.E. Hinton, who uses her initials?
Right, or Fern by E.B. White, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
It is interesting sometimes as writers that people don't understand how a story will come to you and you're like, you can't explain it, you just write it, right?
Yeah, and I think if I had heard it said out loud earlier in my life, I would have thought it was kind of cheesy. Like a phrase like, I didn't write it, they wrote me. Like, it's kind of like
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But I literally all the time would be writing a scene and the characters would say, that's not it. It wouldn't go like this. I would say this. You know what I mean? And they become such a part of you that they really do take more control of the narrative.
yeah.
And for me, and oh, my brain has escaped me. Who wrote um the Newbery last year about time travel?
I don't know that one.
No.
Uh,
Anyway, I listened to a podcast with her, and she talked about that she was character driven first, and that gave me great courage because I
mhm,
thought, oh, that's because I think it's definitely the characters come first. They come to me first, and then when I can't leave them, when they don't leave me alone, I'm like, well, what's the story? What is this? What shenanigans are you involved in? And then
right.
it kind of unfolds.
Yeah. So since the talent is about music, the another which came first, which format did you listen to first? Vinyl, cassette, maybe 8 track? I don't know.
Yeah. So as a little kid, my first exposure to music, my mother was a music person. She played the piano, but
Oh,
we had a lot of vinyl, and we had one of those great big, like beautiful pieces of furniture that was our turntable. Right.
right.
With the big, it's got the displays, all the albums in it,
Yeah.
right, like a place for them. And I remember we had really quality headphones, and I remember putting records on and at night in the dark and just kind of watching the green light of that turntable and
Mhm.
listening to music. My mom had music on a lot. We listened to a lot of 8 tracks driving, but the first like music, the first rock and roll that I remember that was a little, because my mom is old enough that she was Elvis but not the Beatles,
Right.
and my older brother is a musician. And I don't remember the first song I ever heard from him, but I remember the one that first had real impact on me was from the outfield. Josie's on a vacation far away, that one,
Oh,
right? And I remember listening to it and I was just like, I have to have more rock and roll. Like, what is this? So vinyl, so both probably 8 track and vinyl, but vinyl probably the first. And
okay.
now I prefer vinyl. Like, I'm not in my house today, but we display 12 albums and we change them out every month. And we have vinyl parties where we buy a new album and we invite guests over, and we come and we have prompts and they listen to a couple songs and then we talk about them. And it's nice to listen to a whole album as opposed to just a few.
That leads into my next question. So you dedicated the talent to your brother,
Yep.
Dano, and is that the
Yep.
one who introduced you
Yep.
to music and everything?
Yeah, he was just the coolest guy ever. He was a real athlete and a musician, and kind of didn't take anything from anybody, and he was always kind of a little bit in trouble. And I just was so timid, and everything about him seemed demonstrably cool. He was an athlete, and he was a musician, and he was popular. And my world was so mousy and small and afraid
Oh,
that I just really idolized him. Still do. He's still right. And so, yeah, when I was that was at the very end of the book. I thought, yeah, I should really dedicate this to him, because I think one of the reasons I love music is because I spent so much time listening to music because it meant so much to him.
so what prompted you to write the talent?
So it is really counterintuitive to how the book, maybe not counterintuitive, different from where the book ended up to where it kind of started. I really, really love Missing May by Cynthia, or I think you say it, Rylant.
Mm,
Rylant. Do you know that book, Missing May? It was a Newbery. It's very small, very short. It's a contemporary middle grade coming of age. And I just loved the the relationship of them living in, and it's a story of this girl that lives with these two people. And so that's kind of what like got me started. And that's where like in the talent Big Mama and Randy come from, is kind of an homage to Missing May. But the story does not go there, because once Liv came on the scene, she's like, oh yeah, this is not a story of me living in a trailer, right? I'm gonna do big things. And so then she kind of just took over the entire story. And it was the first time I had ever sat down to write a book. I did it in November of 21. I every day, and it was still lockdown. I'm a educator by profession, and so all my classes were via Zoom. So I had a lot more time. I just wrote like 1,000 or 1,500 words a day. I did the 3,600 word draft in November. So in 30 days, I had the rough draft,
Oh, wow.
and I had and because everyone was home, I did interviews with people who had been on I almost said the talent. I did interviews with people who had been on American Idol, The Voice, and America's Got Talent, because I just reached out on social media and said, hey, who's ever done this or knows someone who has? Can you connect me? And so I conducted interviews with people and really like had the guts. Well, I shouldn't say the guts. I had the skeleton of the book done in a month,
Mm.
which is crazy and not my process.
It's different. That's what I was wondering about, if you've had people comparing, like, oh, that totally reminds me of one of those shows you just mentioned, like American
Yeah,
Idol
yeah,
or something.
it
Did
should,
you?
because a lot of research went into it, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of things in the book that are directly from research I did on those shows, not interviews, and then other just things I've read and watched and researched.
Liv is a bit complicated, your character.
Right?
How did you come up with her, or how did she arrive to you? Because
It-
when I was reading the story, I literally texted you and was like, "What is happening? This is making me nervous because
right.
there's some lying and stuff like that,
A
which
lot of
you
lying. Yeah, she was a
do,
con
right?
artist. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she is. So how did she arrive to you?
So I had this setting, right, that I wanted her with like Big Mama and Randy in the trailer. And then when I first started writing her, I was like, oh, it'd be cool if she did music. And then she's like, I do music to survive, and my life has not been great. And then the only two people that were great to me, I have to leave. And
Mhm.
so she hides behind everything. And it's become who she really is. And so seriously, almost from the first chapter, her voice came out and saying things, like, yeah, I'm not afraid to shake down a loser at school or
Mhm.
to beat someone up. And I was just like, okay. So we've got a kind of bully on our hands. And she's a self-described bully
Right?
and a liar. So of course you're thinking, oh, and I think the tension of the book is the whole time you're like, oh, what's her redemptive arc gonna be?
Yeah.
And so and part of me was like resistant to that. Like, of course there is, but I was just like, yeah, this isn't gonna be easy. This isn't gonna be just some, you know, because her personality is tough, and she's tough till the end.
She's had an incredibly tough living
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
How did you navigate? I always find this curious, as I don't think I'm necessarily a helicopter parent, but as a
Right.
parent who is involved and active, it's always kind of shocking when you read some middle grade and coming of age where these kids do these outrageous things on their own.
Yeah.
Now, Liv has an accomplice in some of the people from the neighborhood, the trailer park
Right.
and everything. But how did you come up with some of that to kind of put this child in an adult world?
Yeah.
But also, that also gave an opportunity, I think, for her to be somewhat on her own because she had like fake network of adults who were
Yeah.
taking care of her. So,
Yeah, LM, her caregiver, sister caregiver, who's lying about being her mom, is a disaster and totally disengaged. So I have really, really strong feelings about that we underestimate kids. And I don't want to speak for every parent. Most parents are better at it, right? But a lot of the literature that we give to kids is demeaning to them. A lot of the way we act about them is demeaning to them, and they are much smarter, they are much brighter. I see that as an educator, I've seen it as a parent, and kids are desperate to have their own independence, right? And I think a lot of the rebellion we get from kids is on us, because we have not given them substantive things to do that are risky. We take, as adults, we take risks. We buy mortgages,
mhm.
right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
right? We decide we're going to college at this place and not this place. And yet we then just think the kids will do that someday. And they want to make decisions that affect their life. They want to be in control. They want to have autonomy. And so I don't suffer fools when it comes to people who don't treat kids like adults, right? Of course, they haven't had the same lived experience as an adult, but they're not dumb. And I get it, their brain isn't completely formed, but they're capable. You feel that from kids when you're with them. And
Mhm.
when like, especially this age, this 10 to 12 is a sweet spot if you go into a school. They can tie their own shoe. They don't say everything that pops into their head, and they can actually do stuff. Like if you sit down with them in a Model UN situation or a band, or you can give them a lot of instruction and they'll really wow you. And so I felt Liv saying, I can do this. I got this. And in her own mind, she's as big as any adult. She doesn't feel like she's not. And she frankly does control the narrative for most of the book. She is in control and is manipulating the adults around her
Yeah.
until she doesn't, right? Until it falls apart and
Right.
she is
Yeah.
out of her league. And she is out of her league.
But
Yeah.
she does have some remorse about many of the things that happened in the book. I won't give it away, but
Yeah.
so it's
Oh,
fun.
I don't want to spoil it either, but the Wyatts who kind of bring about this change for her in the end,
Hmm.
they were completely unexpected for me. Like, not to be, I'll just wrap myself out. I thought they would kind of just be a caricature. Like the line I had was, right, she goes to live at the end of the book with this foster family, the Wyatts, and she says there's three kind of people who foster kids: people who want to save the world, people who need the money, and the Jesus people. And
Hmm.
the Wyatts were real Jesus people.
Yeah.
And so at first I almost thought they were just going to be a caricature of, like super religious people or whatever, right? But
Hmm.
then I was like, that's not fair and not really who they are. And so her moment away from the spotlight and with them, not to give too many spoilers, is what causes her, because she, like me, she had to bump up against this caricature
Hmm.
and realize that, oh, they do like me. They're nice to me. They're generally concerned with me.
Yeah.
And I have to confront what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that was unexpected for me. That was unexpected for me
Yeah.
that,
She's
that,
still
that they would
being
be like that.
lived though when she's with the family.
Oh,
She's
for
still being
sure.
lived. Yeah. So there are a couple of things. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. And spoiler alert, she does not find Jesus. Right. She
right.
does not.
Yeah. Yeah.
She does not come to their, which was true to her, right? She respected them, but yeah, and she still lived. I can't remember if she wants to punch one of the kids or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. While you were doing this, and there were probably some lyrics that I didn't catch the references. And to me, as not being a big music aficionado, whatever, I probably missed some of the references to the music. But as writers, we often have this question about like, can you use music in
Right.
books? I'm kind of curious about, and I know you looked up all the legal stuff.
Yep.
What came first? Did you just write the story and then
Yeah.
with the legalities of how much you could use or not use?
Yes, yes. Because and the music, I wrote it, and the music came kind of organically,
Mhm.
right? Because Liv's on this talent show, which is like America's number one singing talent show. And then I did research on that those shows have to have certain catalogs. They have restrictions. And so oftentimes they'll say to their contestants, this is the ones you can use for
Right.
whatever we're doing this week. And so there's that in the book. But so the songs, I used the songs I wanted.
Hmm.
Originally, I had all the lyrics in it, and which I knew was going to be problematic, but I got the draft done.
Yeah.
But then it's actually stronger without them all,
Hmm.
because no, you can only legally use a line or two. And I didn't want the song. I wanted the feeling of the song. I wanted why this song was chosen. I wanted the what this song communicates. And so I actually found that was stretched me more to describe how the song feels or what it does for her or what it does for the audience. I was really happy with how it turned out with
Hmm.
using it. But the songs came first for sure. Where I was like, yeah, this, because the songs drive, or well, they don't drive, but they support the narrative,
Hmm.
right? Like the songs she sings at the different times help. And I can't remember, but I think maybe even in an early draft I'm changed. Like Because like a lot of these singing programs do like 1 week's Broadway week and 1 week's 80s week and 1 week's country week. Like
Mhm.
I may have moved those around a little bit for what the story needed. I
Right.
can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and look at the early editions to see if it was always in the order it is now.
I was just curious because I know sometimes as writers, we sometimes get hung up on things. So it's fascinating to me that you were like, you just wrote the whole song and then as you were revising, right? You made some changes and shortened it
Yeah.
what it was supposed to be. So,
As I was revising and talked to legal counsel and
yes,
said,
yes,
yeah, and said, and by legal counsel, my wife, who's an attorney, I said, hey, look into this. What can we do? And so she looked up all the fair usage, and then I made sure we were in compliance.
right. That's great that you have in-house legal counsel,
Right.
literal
I
in-house legal counsel.
literally in-house counsel. Absolutely.
But I think it is easy to get hung up on stuff like that, where that you aren't
Yeah.
writing and you're researching and doing things. So I'm glad that that worked out.
And
Yeah.
I love research. And the research for me, in fact, what I typically do, I'll research something and then write and realize that I've written too much. I'm starting to write a term paper on what I learned. This is what I learned about the
There you
music industry, or this is what, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool for you, but the reader doesn't want all that, and they don't need it. I need to know it because I need to do this research and know. Like when people say to me, "Is that really how reality shows work?" I'm like, "Yeah, 100%." Like I did a ton of research on this,
Yeah.
but I don't have to put all of that in the book. You know what I
Right.
mean? In fact, a lot of the editing, that's what it was. It was taking out. They don't need to know all of this. No one cares. You know what I
Right.
mean?
What's one thing that you wanted to keep in that you took out? What fact did you find that was so great that you wanted to keep?
Oh, I think uh I think I did take it out. Like when you get like America's Got Talent, everyone they talk about the $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. It's like 25,000 a year for 40 years.
Yeah.
Like you don't get like a jumbo check with $1 million.
Oh,
Like that's not how these things work.
yeah.
Right. Some of that stuff, like some of the taping stuff, you know what I mean? That it happens in advance and whatever.
Yeah.
I found myself writing more. I was like, it doesn't move the story along. It doesn't matter.
I lived in a community that had American Idol contestant
Huh?
and I was working at the newspaper. So to me, I was curious how you did it because there were some things that they were like they can't perform, before they're aired on the show. They were a little bit fascinating and that I don't think some people would know behind the scenes. So I did enjoy some of that, but those shows can be kind of crazy. And I had a cousin who was on American Idol.
Oh,
So
is that right?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
weird.
Like the audition scene comes almost straight from American Idol, like how they do it, how the process works. Like a
Yeah,
lot
and
of it was from my interview. I mean, how they did do it when I was writing this
yeah,
in 2021,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was something initially it was just going to be a variety show,
Hmm.
more like America's Got Talent. And I had like a juggler and something else. And then early on, I was like, no, this is just all like, just keep this, lock this into music. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like it makes more sense. And my brain was like, you can't do that because there's not a reality show that lets kids be with adults. And I was just like, you're writing your own, dum dum.
Yeah.
And because America's Got Talent does allow that age range,
Right. Yeah.
but there wasn't, right, but there wasn't a singing one that did. And I was like, yeah, so you just made one, the end. And
Yeah.
so I did do a lot of research on what it is to have kids on these shows
Do,
and what their requirements are.
do you think writing both picture books and middle grade that it's easier to be like more outrageous, obviously, in a picture book, or is it obvious, than in a middle grade? Because people do question like, oh, you couldn't have kids and I don't know.
Yeah, that's why people write fantasy too, right? So
Yeah.
I can like, sure, I can turn that into an elephant, no problem.
Right.
Right. And yeah, and when you're writing contemporary, you are bound by the world we live in within reason. You know what I mean? You can stretch some boundaries of things that might, but then a lot of times, like we live in where life goes, if I wrote this, no one will believe it.
So my son read a novel in school, whereas some kid, like, he took a car and drove it, up north.
Right.
He was in the South and he
Right.
drove up north. So when my son is driving, I'm like, how do you think that 12-year-old drove a car? Because now, you're 15 and could
Right.
you do that then? I don't know.
Well, we just had an 8-year old last year who drove to Target, who got
Yes.
on the Yeah, she lived down here in Mass, and she Target. She was
Yeah,
8. She
they're
figured
fun
out how to
teenagers.
my favorite phrase my wife and I say all the time, "Kids aren't dumb."
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
When you've kept busy with publishing and everything. So, but what does your workflow look like with writing and publishing? Or do you have more books that are coming out, or what are you doing?
So I have a work in progress right now that is in like a doesn't mean anything. A third draft stage for me, which means it's
Okay.
time to tighten it up before I start sending it to beta readers and other people
Oh, okay.
and editors, right? So I have to make it like I have to take it as far as I can go, right? I was like, this is it. This is my abilities. I'm done.
Mm,
Now someone else help me. That is a project that I will probably again solicit and publishers because it's more niche. It has
mhm,
to do with some really specific historical. It's the first historical thing I've written. So it's got a dual narrative, both a contemporary and a historical component.
mhm,
So it'll require some more help. And then I publish nonfiction essays every week on Substack just to keep me focused because
mhm,
I could work on 12 book projects and never do anything. So I allow my creative space to go to those short weekly essays.
mhm.
Right? So I say you can't chase every squirrel, but you can write about that every week. And it forces me to produce something every week because if I didn't have a deadline, I'd write nothing.
Yeah, that goes to a question I had. A lot of times people look at writers and we talk about writing because that's what we're passionate about. We don't necessarily talk about the minutia of our day-to-day
Right?
work jobs or whatever. For my stats, you have 2 novels, you have 12 plus picture books, right? You have your normal Avenue Press, which you've publish this. This is
Right.
a product of that. And then you also have your still small submissions on Substack and your
Yep.
Darrin Simpson Substack. But
Yep.
so it's a lot, right?
Yep.
And do you work full time, right?
I work full time
Yeah.
and I have a pretty militant goal. Militant's probably not the right word. I'm pretty firm about that I write 500 hours a year. So that comes out to be about an hour and a half a day. And the demons come in not every day, but every few days of, oh, you're an imposter, you're a loser, you can't do anything, and so I give myself permission to do poor work
Mhm.
and I just say, just sit down and do something. I open the laptop, I set a timer for 10 minutes, and then I'm in the flow. And then it goes. And I do marketing and those kinds of things all count towards that 500 hours. It's not just 500 hours of creative writing. I do have to find myself week to week balancing and saying, because I could spend all my time promoting books, I could spend all my time promoting essays or whatever instead of creating new things. And
Mhm.
so I have to make time, to schedule those out. I probably spend most weeks, some weeks 10, some weeks 15 hours. So it's
Mhm.
like a part-time job. I mean, it's like a legit part-time job
Right.
where I doing, and I do find myself like when I'm on the train going to work, I'll have an idea and I'll start jotting it down and I'll get off my stop and I'll go stand on a bench and finish the thought.
Mhm.
Because if I don't, it'll escape me. So some of those quirky like writer things I now find myself as part of. The other thing I have to stay shy of is things that work expands to fill the day. So if I let the 500 hours drive me, I can just be like, oh, I'll just go to another writing workshop and because it'll count.
Sure.
Well, that's cool, but is it what I need? Is it what lacking in my writing right now? Or am I doing it because I'm afraid to actually sit down, open the laptop and create,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's I need to spend, but I haven't created a new picture book in a while because I'm trying to focus on getting these out and
Yeah.
making them as quality as possible. And so you do have to decide what it is you're working on, right? Yeah, I spend a lot of time on it. You know, um, Other than work, probably writing is where I spend the most of my time. Yeah, about 10 to 15 hours a week.
Yeah. And so your Substack, do you have a word limit that you try to stick to?
On my weekly Substack is 500 words or
Oh,
less.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
And yeah.
mostly, how would you describe it? Family, everyday
So
life? What do
So
you?
my personal essays that I write every week are just basically observations about life in general. I think I should know. I should have the tagline memorized, and I don't. It's something like observations on life, sometimes serious, mostly fun. I don't remember. I'm
Yeah.
trying to look it up. I can't remember what it is. And so those are the weekly ones that I write.
Mhm.
Um, And then I have a group where I have two other partners, which is Still Small Stories, where we focus on kind of uplifting short fiction.
Mhm.
And for that is mostly just administrative for me. I'm the founder and editor, and so we just spend time soliciting other writers, making sure it's what we want, and then we produce that product every week, and that's a paid Substack.
Right.
Yep. And so that takes up time too, but it's not as creative, right? That's not one where I'm spending a lot of time writing myself. Some, but not a lot.
Yeah. So, is there something that you can talk about with the Still Small Submissions that's going to have a music component?
Oh yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
So Emily Susan Pack, we're working on dates. So Still Small Stories caters to an LDS audience,
Mhm.
to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She kind of writes in that creative space, music. She's on Instagram. She's got a lot of followers, and she was one of the reasons we started Still Small Stories, because I wanted a place where people could feel like they had an authentic voice, where
Yeah.
they could see themselves in something other than a caricature,
Mhm.
and use their own kind of vocabulary. And so I DM'd her, and we had a mutual friend who lives here in Cambridge, and
Mhm.
he's like, I've been trying to get her to come out. So it's just like, done. We'll make the collab happen. So
Mhm.
that's happening in February and is exciting. And one more thing for me to spend my time on,
Yes. Yes.
but that's all right.
So, anybody who follows you on social media, what's the best place? Usually Instagram?
Sure, Simpson7 on Instagram, and it's spelled out Simpson, Seven,
Yes.
is a good one.
And on your Instagram, you have just this year, right? You started it this year.
I know
Your
exactly what you're gonna say.
your peanut butter obsession.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is your favorite peanut butter?
Well, it's Teddy's, duh. Teddy's is made here in Everett, Mass, which is on the North Shore,
Uh-huh.
and it's the best peanut butter ever. There's nothing. The ingredients are just peanuts and salt. But here's the deal. Here's the real deal with peanut butter. With why I did it. I kind of love, like I just said, that I have this goal of 500 hours, and I'm totally goal driven, and I hate them.
Uh-huh.
And I feel the same way sometimes about like the word of the year to guide you. And so like I had all this pressure last year at the holidays of like, what's your word of the year? Like what's going to guide you? And I
Yeah.
was just like, well, I think my diet consists of about 40% peanut butter. If I was honest, my word of the year would be peanut butter. So
Okay.
I actually wrote the 12 peanut butter videos right there and filmed them all
Uh-huh.
right there. Yeah.
Okay. So 2025, the year of
Was the year of peanut butter. Yeah.
peanut butter. Do we have a
Which
hint
is
what 2026 will be?
no, because I hate the pressure. That right, peanut butter was a way to not have a word of the year, and so
Okay.
I have no idea. It'll probably be nothing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Or yeah, because I wanted a goal I could do. Right? Like I mean, like what was supposed to be my word of the year? Imagine, create. A
Yeah.
comp. I don't know. So
See,
if that works for other people, that's fantastic. The pressure of a word of the year was going to send me. So instead, it spiraled into 12 videos on the virtue of peanut butter.
yes, and they're lovely, and anybody who loves peanut butter, it's worth watching. I have a final question though for you. So,
Absolutely.
what have I not asked that you were expecting me to ask that would be something we'd want to share about the talent or writing or just anything?
I think maybe we answered it a little bit, like why children's books, why these things. So I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan,
Mhm.
and he was on Terry Gross when he had his biography out, and it was really funny because Terry was asking Bruce. She was like you wrote these songs at this point of your life when your parents moved away, and she was kind of hinting around, she thought she was cracking the code a little bit. She's like, do you think some of your music was inspired by your family situation? And he's like, Terry, rock and roll is three chords and wah daddy.
Uh,
And so he was just like, yeah, duh. Like my whole career has been resolving my daddy issues with, right. That's why I sing about what I do and do what I do. And what I liked about that was just like he's completely aware. And
mhm.
and so I'm so passionate about contemporary middle grade fiction, not just for what it does for kids, but what it can do for all of us. There's something about exploring and re-exploring what made you who you are. when did you choose your values? When did you choose the kind of person you were going to be? And that space speaks to me, probably because of my own childhood, for sure. It's just a passion I have, that there's something about, like, think of like Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and just the whole pantheon of these wonderful contemporary middle grade coming of age books,
Mhm.
where Margaret, I lost my brain, but Judy Blume, and
Yeah.
right, there's just something about them that resonates with us. And I think that, and I worry that they're going away, right? That they sell less than they did in the past. Kids read less than they did. And I want to say, no, you can't get from a film or music the same way you can in a novel, where you can write a fiction story. So I'm passionate about middle grade coming of age. It's
Mhm.
something that, it may not be what I write forever, but it's something that I think is worth writing and worth doing.
Well, I love your writing and I hope you
You're
keep
nice.
writing. One thing though, with being indie published versus traditional, where can people buy the book?
Anywhere books are sold, like electronically, because I do a wide distribution. So Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Google Books, Apple Books, Amazon, right? If you put in The Talent by Darrin Simpson, it'll come right up and show you all kinds of places that you can order either a physical book, right? Or we have it in ebook, and in Stephanie Richardson did a great job as the voice talent audiobooks.
Yeah.
And so it's available wherever books are sold online.
Oh,
I think there's something like 200 distributors online.
okay.
And
So
then
I do love in the print how you did the chapters and you have the talent. I love that.
and that you talk about collaboration. Bailey Vidler, who did Abby's Big Debate as well, I told her what I wanted the star to look like, and she said, "Oh, you want it like this?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't." And she's like, "Yeah, you do." And she's like, "This is cooler." And with the kind of like almost a graffiti look to
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
like on the
I
front
picked
cover,
the
it's
cover.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So this is a perfect example of collaboration, because I knew what I wanted the cover to be. I wanted the cover to be the first time she's in the live show on the big stage, and with the rock and roll all in black leather. That's what I wanted. And Bailey like read the book, and she's like, well, what if we put her in like a cool TV show high production outfit and guitar, but back in the behind the dumpster, the trailer court where she always plays.
Yeah.
And in my brain I was like, that's not a scene in the book. And then I was like, hey, dummy, she knows what she's talking about. This is why you hire a professional. And the juxtaposition is the sum total of the book.
Mhm.
It's this kid who's really a rock star, but can she get out of the garbage dump that she practiced in? Can she really believe she's more than, is she more than where she came from?
Yeah.
Right. And so the cover perfectly illustrates the book. And if I had been like, nope, it's got to be like this, right? It would be an inferior product. Yeah, which is because I'm thrilled about the cover. It looks amazing. And the inside layout, like I said, the star, all of it,
Yeah.
right,
It's
is
really
is
nice.
great. Yeah.
It's really nice. Well, thanks for talking to me about the book.
Thank you for talking to me about it. I would talk about it forever. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. I hope kids will be able to find it and everything and get to read it. So,
Yeah, ask your library to stock it. You can find me on darrensimpsonwrites.com. Send me a message. I'm happy to do virtual events. One of my favorite things I've done is family book clubs,
yeah.
where I encourage parents to get together with like cousins, book club, we call it. Get
Mhm.
together with your cousins, and then I'll come zoom in and answer all your questions.
That's cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you.